Hey there, internet friends. Welcome to another episode of That D Plus Show. Class is in session for the only show from that nerdy site that lets you know what kind of quality to expect right from the name. I'm your host, Trevor Starkey, and each week we dive into a different Disney Plus offering and discuss its history, how it holds up today, and our general impressions. If you like the show, we would love it if you like, subscribe, rate, review, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. Joining me today, we have Cameron Abbott. How you doing, Cam?
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
What's going on is we were hoping we'd get Logan on this one because he loves talking Simpsons, but he had some last minute travel plans change, so no Logan on this one, and so it's just the two of us to talk The Simpsons. Oh come on, all ye faithful. This is technically season 36, episodes 10 and 11, a double episode, notably that released straight to Disney Plus and exclusively to Disney Plus. Did not air on Fox. So, yeah, why'd we pick it? Because it is new and holiday and Simpsons. And so it's a nice little happy meeting of the things we have done in the past on here in December and this month's run of let's just chat about the new things that are dropping here in December. Our history lesson here, originally released December 17th, 2024, which is in honor of the 35-year anniversary of Simpsons Roasting on an Open Fire, aka the very first episode that released or that aired back on December 17th, 1989, way back when on Fox. This has a runtime of 45 minutes. And in the Simpsons timeline of things, this falls between season 36, episode 9, Homer and her sisters, which is described as after a fight in an escape room, Krusty's truth-telling aunt fixes Homer's relationship with Patty and Selma. Ooh. And then the next upcoming episode is season 36, episode 12, The Man Who Flew Too Much. The new and improved Pin Pals travel to Capital City for their first ever state bowling championship. So, yeah. Our roll call here. We have two directors over the course of this episode. We have Debbie Bruce Mahan directing the first half, who has directed 5 episodes of The Simpsons overall, with additional work as a character layout artist, assistant director, and etc. on The Simpsons going back to 2003, including some work on The Simpsons movie. And then Matthew Faugan, directed the second half, who's directed 27 episodes of The Simpsons, including, again, additional work as character layout artist, assistant director, etc., all the way going back to 1998, and also having worked on The Simpsons movie. The writer for both parts, Carolyn Omine, who has written... I did not think to update that, but 27 episodes, plus at least 27 episodes. And I say I didn't think to update it because I just copied her from the Treehouse of Horror doc. And so that's what that 27 episodes is counting from, because she notably wrote in Treehouse of Horror 11 and 12, which we talked about a couple months ago. And so, yeah, she's been working on The Simpsons all the way back since 2000. So yeah, fun seeing her pop up as the writer of this special little episode that we did. Our cast of characters here: Dan Castellaneta, of course, is Homer, currently credited in 778 episodes. Julie Kavner as Marge, also 778. Nancy Cartwright as Bart in 778, and Yeardley Smith in 776. It's come up a couple times, why did some of the numbers change? And we'd seen noticeably, there was an episode where Marge isn't credited. So I finally did a little bit of digging, or a little bit of research on it, and found somebody kind of highlighted. There was an episode, 4 Great Women and a Manicure, in which Lisa and Marge appear, but Bart doesn't. There was Krusty Gets Canceled, way back in season 4, in which Marge appears but has no lines. And I read some article basically that was saying, Julie Kavner kind of boycott that episode, because that is a very guest star heavy episode, because Krusty got canceled. And so they brought in a whole bunch of guest stars to, try and bolster Krusty's ratings or whatever. It was very much like an homage to the end of the Johnny Carson show.
Oh yeah, okay.
It was that episode. And so yeah, she basically was like, I don't like that like our work is being replaced by all these guest stars that we keep bringing in, and so she kind of sat that episode out. And then Lisa appeared, but did not have any lines in season 21, episode 18, Chief of Hearts. Yeah. It's a little bit of the kind of behind the scenes trivia on like some of that like mystery that we had talked about on Simpsons episodes past. We also have Hank Azaria playing Mo and others, having been in 768 episodes. Harry Shearer as Flander and others in 778 episodes. On the kind of next tier down, we have Pamela Hayden as Rod Flanders and Milhouse and various other characters in 697 episodes. Tress MacNeille as Agnes Skinner and others, 651 episodes. And Maggie Roswell as Helen Lovejoy and others, 284 episodes. Our guest stars for this two-parter being Darren Brown, an English mentalist and illusionist, Patti LaBelle, R&B singer and actress, of course known for stuff like Lady Marmalade, and Pentatonix is the like a cappella pop group that sings a couple of the songs.
They're still a thing. Okay.
Pentatonix? Oh yeah, they're still doing their thing. They're out there touring. I always see them popping up in my feed for their like big holiday concert series and stuff like that. In particular, I've seen like them doing stadium shows recently where the main guy, the lead guy, is out there doing the loathing dance from Wicked. Like,
okay.
Up the aisle with like all of the people like raising their cell phone lights, and he's doing the dance and tapping his book or whatever. They do whatever little TikTok trends are making the rounds, but in front of their audiences typically.
The last time I heard any reference to Pentatonix was like a decade ago. So
yeah, no,
Pentatonix, when they blew up, I was friends with a bunch of people who like were really into a cappella. And so,
sure.
go figure, theater kids.
Yeah.
So they were like, I couldn't get away from them, and then eventually I did, and now they've shown up here on that D Plus show.
Yeah, so, I've talked about them, I believe, on that D Plus show before because
I just usually ignore it.
Last holiday or a couple holidays ago, I don't remember when, but they had like a Disney Plus holiday special.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that.
That ended up being one of those like casualties when they decided to cut a whole bunch of stuff from the library. It was like, hey, one of the things they were cutting was the Pentatonix holiday specials. I was like, well, this thing that I had watched and enjoyed well enough, because it was like them doing holiday specials, but the framework was they were, they traveled through a portal and ended up in the
nativity
in the mailbox of Santa's letters.
Oh, okay.
And so they were like reading letters from kids around the world that were written to Santa and Pentatonix, I think. And it was basically like, I would love to, sing this song with Pentatonix. And so it was like these kids, and not, it wasn't exclusively kids, but it was like people around the world singing, Silent Night, Holy Night, and then Pentatonix would come in and join them kind of thing.
Okay.
It was cute enough.
Sure.
But yeah, it was like the framing device was, for whatever reason, they were all reading Santa's letters and finding the spirit of the holiday or something like that through song. I don't know. Anyway, I've been one of those people that like when Pentatonix blew up, I was watching all their stuff on YouTube, and then they kind of fell off my radar for a few years, and they popped back up, and I was like, wait, one of the guys disappeared and has been replaced, kind of thing, because they replaced like the bassist from their early years, decided he wanted to kind of step away. And then, they brought somebody in to replace him. And I think they also, they've had a long-standing relationship with Disney because they also do, like, every year Disney does, like, a special that's, like, the holidays at Disneyland and Disney World. And they, like, record from the, it's usually, like, early January. I've actually been there on days where they're recording the thing, but they air it on Christmas Day. And it's another thing of like, oh, yep, there's Julianne Hough
Yeah.
introducing pentatonics to sing some song in front of the castle for everybody. So yeah, they've been regularly involved in that kind of stuff too.
I did not know that me bringing that up was going to somehow take us down a pentatonics rabbit hole, but here we are.
Yeah, there we go.
There we go.
Some trivia for the episode. As we often do on these episodes, I have a designated spot for the Bart chalkboard message or the sofa gag. This has none of those, and we go straight into the it was one of those, like, I was like, oh, it's not a Treehouse of Terror or Treehouse of Horror, so we're actually get those again. And then it went straight into this like Darren Brown Christmas framing device, and I was like, guess not, never mind.
Yep. Nope. Not happening this time.
So other trivia I have here is, as noted above, this is the first episode of the series not to air on the Fox network for its US debut, instead released as a Disney Plus exclusive. And on top of that, according to Simpsons.wiki, aka the fandom Simpsons wiki, it is the first episode since the season 5 finale, Secrets of a Successful Marriage, to not air on a Sunday. That was basically like the show was airing on Thursdays back in those earlier seasons, and then they moved it to Sundays starting in season 6, and that's where it has sat for the last 30 years. So yeah, this is the first episode to not debut on a Sunday, basically, in however long. Shout out to our friend Eva Enriquez, who we talked about last week, credited as, over the course of her run, an animation production assistant, animation production coordinator, and now an animation production lead coordinator for over 70 episodes, starting in 2021. So yeah, friend of ours, partner of Ben Bellevue, former nerd here on that nerdy site. And then the last little bit of trivia. During the opening for A Darren Brown Christmas, a picture of Mr. Burns and the hounds confronting the spirits from A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens is seen. So that was just a fun little sight gag that we had in the background. There were also little like nods. There were a lot of little nods and references to Simpsons over the years. I liked in the shop Homer being like, "Oh, I'll get her a bowling ball." Wait, no, I tried that already.
Yeah.
Being very much a nod to Life on the Fast Lane. Other items that we see for sale in that store are all like, pulls and references to old stuff. The one that jumped out to me was, I was like, personalized talking astrolabes. What a weird call out. And then the Simpsons wiki calls it out as like, yeah, that was introduced in "Tis the 15th Season," an episode back from the 15th season of the show, I believe. So yes, yeah, they seem to all have been like items that have been in like holiday episodes of the show. Inferno Buster 3000s or Futon Friends rather, was from "Tis the 30th Season." And then yeah, Inferno Busters 3000s, Miracle on Evergreen Terrace, Mrs. Gnome in Your Home and Gnome in Your Home from The Nightmare After Christmas, Malibu Stacy Pony Beach Party, Kill Gill Volumes 1 and 2. So yeah, lots of little Easter eggs and nods, including and there were some things where I was like, oh, like I sat down to watch this. I was like, I wonder how in the weeds they'll get for like things that I don't know, because I haven't watched the show in however many years as like a regular viewer. Like, is this still going to be like you can just drop into any episode and you'll be fine? And it largely was, but there were a couple things where I was like, when Ned is talking about like having lost 2 wives, I was like, I remember Maude, who's the second, and I had forgotten that he and Edna got together, and then when the actress behind Edna passed away, they kind of wrote her out, and so yeah, I forgot he had gone through that a second time. More recently, you can see Larry's urn on top of the love tester at Moe's. And that was from, I think, just in the last season or two. Larry, one of the barflies in Moe's, one of the regulars in Moe's, passed away. And basically, so that's a relatively recent development in terms of like death on The Simpsons and stuff. So anyway, so yeah, what did you think of this pair of episodes here, Cam?
It was fine. It was Simpsons, which is, I'll be honest, the one thing I wanting out of this is I want The Simpsons, right? Mm-hmm. I want it to be Simpsons. I want it to be holiday. I want it to be fun. Lighthearted for the most part. Like that's what I'm expecting out of it, and that's what I'm getting. It does its job. Mission accomplished. No big banner on a battleship here. Just overall mission accomplished. No worries. I think it's either my perception of like my recollection of how voices used to sound on The Simpsons, and it's just like it's
Marge
is
sounds way older because Julie Kavner is way older. So it's one of those. Yeah, absolutely. If you've watched steadily over time, you've heard it gradually. But when especially because the biggest touchstone we have tends to be watching the Treehouse of Horror episodes from 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Julie Kavner was certainly the most noticeable one for me.
But heard it from Bart as well.
Yeah.
It's jarring to be like, and I'm like, oh, why does she sound so right? I was like, Cameron, she's done this for 778 episodes. She's done this for what will be 35 years.
This is the 36th season.
36th season.
And she'd been doing it even before that on the Tracy Ullman shorts and stuff.
She did this before you were born. So, she can have a strained out, graggly voice. She earned it. Over 778 episodes. The woman's earned it. So, like, I'm like, okay, obviously that's a bit grating to me because I'm like, I have not been following the show. It's fine. Let's keep this going. And then from there, it was just like, but also like, hear it in Frank Azaria with Homer. Not Homer, Frank Azaria.
Frank Castellan. Dan Castellan.
Dan Castellan, yeah. Like you hear it in his voice. And I'm like, how does that I can't even imagine how difficult that is to like be having a character that you've done for such a long time where you're now getting to an age and a point in your life and your career where it's harder to step back into that character and make it sound like quote unquote classic. It must be like, it must be extremely strenuous. But overall, I really enjoyed kind of I'm like, oh, okay, cool. There's still nonsense. The Homer thing, it's still all nonsense. I'm like, obviously, like the cross contamination of like the post Family Guy world we're in, the post South Park world we're in, where you have a little bit more like kind of like weird things like the Ralph just being like weirdly like in the right place at the right time throughout this episode, which is like, it's fun.
Yeah, I mean that doesn't strike me as anything post Family Guy or post.
Oh no,
South
I just
Park.
just mean like back in the day, it was much more of like it's weird to say grounded, but I think it's also just a matter of like it's also I have not seen The Simpsons outside of like Treehouse of Horror stuff, and so it's like this felt more in line with like what I would expect out of a Treehouse of Horror as far as like playing with the universe a little bit, whether it's a lot of the things. One thought I thought was going to be really cool. I was like, oh wow, they're really like pushing Ned over the edge on this one.
Yeah, it's a whole crisis of faith.
Yeah, crisis of faith. And it's like, okay, that's wild. And I'm like, and then they really bring up like how over the years the jokes they've made about how religious Ned is and how kind of like kooky religious he is, really coming up front of like one beat after the other, and it's like, oh, I forgot he's anointed oil in a Bible in his medicine cabinet. I'm like, oof, this is like, I forgot about a lot of this. I forgot. Yeah, the his children are like horribly out of place in the world because of the way that he and Maud raised them. And like probably the trauma these children have gone through, losing two mothers. Like that's wild. And so when they address it, like just this like enormous crisis, but also, and it makes it, now that I say that out loud, them coveting gifts is an interesting thing considering the fact that they've lost two mothers. Like their obsession with like holding on to something that's just for them makes they probably were playing with it, not intending that, but that's what I've now picked up on. So like there's layers here.
Yeah. I really liked, I liked it. I mean, the kickoff of the episode being like,
I was super turned off by the kickoff.
The Darren Brown Christmas stuff. I'm like, I don't have any connect. Like that is clearly the Simpsons writers room thought this is their in, and at least they call it out at one point of like, I'm bigger over in London or whatever.
And he's like,
because it's very much like,
yeah.
okay, yeah, this is a terrible entry point for this for as a character who like most American audiences aren't going to have any kind of real touchstone for.
And they make a great point, but like, I have a subscription to BritBox because my parents do have a subscription to BritBox.
Sure.
And that is a thing. Like, that is, if it's not on BritBox, we don't know about it.
Yeah, I liked, they made a reference to like the biggest British touchstone I feel like has crossed the pond of like, they're really good at like all I really know is they're really good at baking, a la the British baking show. Great British Bake Off. But yeah, so it was a weird like framing device entryway in, but when it turns into okay, they're going to use that to take the idea of making Homer a good gift giver into Homer equals Santa Claus, and then the whole town is going to get wrapped up in that. And I love that in the like early stages of that, Ned is very like very opposed to it, but everything he's saying he's opposed to, you could very easily just swap out
with God.
Jesus or God, and it's the same. It's the thing that he's been espousing for 36 years on the show, and so I love that. Then it becomes okay. Let's break Homer of being the Santa Claus thing of it, but the damage has already been done, and everybody fell into this cult of Santa. Mm-hmm. And have exposed, and that has exposed Ned to the like discovery that maybe he's in the cult of Jesus, and so he has that crisis of faith, and so yeah, I really liked. I was like, oh, okay, that's like, I like that they're going for a deeper thing here, and I liked that. Like ultimately, I like how they play around with that too, and how like the different Simpson family members try and help do their part. Marge being there and just being a supportive ear for Ned, but then also trying to get like Bart and Lisa to help bring Christmas, and Bart doing it in the Bart way of like turning it into a horror film, and and I not trying to put love of God back into them, but fear of hell and fear of Satan, and Marge being like, that's not the same thing, but I like that you tried. I love that you tried.
Like,
it's the best gift kind of
you
thing.
Listened to me and you tried to help somebody. Like, that is the best gift I could ask for from you.
All the while, Milhouse is crawling out of their TV, a la The Ring.
Really enjoyed the
Lisa's like whole
that's what I was going to
Buddhist story of the blind tortoise and the yoke was lovely, and seeing that ends up being like the tie back to the end, where like, because very initially when like I loved that they let Ned have a very spiritual moment, and then it ends up being like Professor Frink and like a man of science. And I loved Professor Frink being like, no, I don't know that there's no God because I'm a man of science. I know there are infinitesimal things I don't know, kind of thing, and leaning into that and kind of doing the like Neil deGrasse Tyson-ness of that kind of stuff. But also, as soon as like I'm going to go in my deep water submersible comes in, I'm immediately thinking to the Titanic stories from last year. I'm like, oh, this isn't going to end well. And so I love that Ned has this like spiritual moment down there with like the jellyfish kind of thing. And then it felt cheapened when like Darren Brown comes back at the end and was like, I faked this whole thing. But the thing he didn't fake being Ned being saved by the yoke was like, okay, they are letting Ned have a miracle here. He can also still believe all the other things that he experienced and saw and isn't undercut by that, because we also see this like supernatural thing that has helped restore his faith. But yeah, like especially knowing that this is like this is built as a 2-part episode, I was like, okay, they've written Darren Brown out there at the end of the first part, and so we'll go on and do this second part as like this Ned crisis of faith kind of thing. So when he comes back at the end, I'm like, stay away, Darren Brown. I didn't want you to come back. And undercut what I thought was a very beautiful moment when
Ned finds the majesty of nature and is like becomes kind of like a Thoreau-ish like kind of like Thoreau levels and like vision of God, which is God of nature. Seems like very poetic, and it's like, oh, that's a great transition for Ned's character of being like fanatic to being more Thoreau, especially because, and this thing, I didn't know he married Edna. I completely missed that boat, whatever articles were written about that at the time.
Yeah.
So I was like, who's his second wife? And I look it up. I was like, that's crazy. And then I do a bit more digging, and I'm like, oh, he becomes a teacher to honor her, like to like, you know, to keep her memory alive. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm like, this is like, we're seeing some Ned progression. And I'm like, I'm really digging the fact that he like refound his faith with like through that kind of like Thoreau lens of nature and God. And it was done through like, we know more about space than we know about like the deep sea ocean. And I'm like, my first thought was like, okay, hold on. Once again, the logistics of the Simpsons Springfield once again is like coming back to me. I'm like, it's super weird. They're also on the ocean.
Sure.
It's like, it's just whatever is convenient for the story.
Oh yeah. No,
and I love that. Once again,
yeah. They've been landlocked in seasons past. Yeah. Now they're
Yep.
right there on the ocean. Sure.
Yep. It's whatever they need. And I'm personally, and once again, it goes back to the
Climate change.
Climate change. There
you go.
It goes back to the Simpsons movie where Ned takes Bart up there and he goes and he points out like all these states that are nowhere near each other.
Yeah.
And like, it's that really fun, wonderful thing about Springfield and Simpsons. Cause like in like less than 5 minutes, they were down apparently in the Mariana Trench. I'm like, I feel weird about this. Like, I don't know how this works that well. Like they shouldn't be that deep yet. And also like that submersible's not going to be able to do that. And for when Darren Brown comes in and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, okay, I get that. I'm like, it does feel cheapened. And then the yoke reveal happens and it's like, okay, there is a sense of truthfulness to his experience and like the like touchstone of like providence, so to speak, like something looking out for Ned, which I think is something that like as an audience for the Simpsons audience, you need, because that's what makes Ned different from just being a dick, right? Is that things generally go well for Ned until things don't go well for Ned, because Ned is the Simpsons Job.
Yeah. That's
the joke. That's the butt of the joke, is that nobody loves God more than Ned, but nobody's punished by God more than Ned. And that's part of the appeal of the Ned character,
Yeah. Other things I like early on, we get, I think it's Homer and Bart out there doing something, and Bart has like a spit take that comes out of nowhere. and they comment on it like, how? He's like, I've always got one locked in the chamber.
Yep.
Kind of like, okay. That got a kick out of me.
Appreciate him walking through all of a sudden just like eating Chinese food and being asked like how he feels about it, about like the gift giving situation. Mm-hmm. And he's like, yeah.
And then shout out to the line Darren Brown saying, and you probably all want Homer back, right? And then one person being like, not really.
Yeah.
Love that. Ned having that, like, ending that beat on the what if there is no God, and then cutting back to let's not include that bit. It's not very Christmassy, is it? Yeah.
Oh, know what I'm thinking? Lunch. You read my mind.
Oh yeah.
But not really. That's not a thing that really happens.
Yeah.
Like I really appreciated the whole like taking the piss out of mentalist aspect of the whole thing. That's what I enjoyed about his part of it.
Yeah.
So
I loved the like introduction to the little rituals that Ned had like made of like leaving a note for Maud on the mirror and then texting Edna.
That was amazing.
And then like
I love that
the
aspect.
bittersweet payoff of like the mystical belief of thinking that somebody's responding, and then the sad realization that
That's
oh no,
nothing.
they've just given that number to somebody new. Yeah, what are the odds that you go from Edna, who equals ha, to Nelson, who equals ha ha?
Well, what I loved about it is it's like it felt more like deliberate because they really pointed out Nelson's like
absolutely.
a terrible person.
Absolutely, yeah. But yeah, so I loved that little bit.
Little Nelson nuke the whale.
Yeah. I love how quickly Rod and Todd get corrupted by a toy catalog.
Yep.
I'll Cain enable you in your sleep. Fun little bit there. Shout out to Lisa's "Don't yuck my spiritual yum."
That was great. I love that.
Ned having the "what the fuck" line being bleeped, and Frink just being like, oh yeah, you're real. That's not how you talk. This is real bad. You're in a real bad place. Um, I the one of the things that I was surprisingly disappointed by was that when the songs would come on, they didn't have closed captioning.
So it's hard to keep track of everything.
Especially because it like they start out very traditional Silent Night, Holy Night, but then the lyrics very much differ from that to be like, let's sing about this pathetic man who has no belief in God, so we're not going to do Holy Night, Silent Night, Just a Night, or whatever it ends up being. So I was very disappointed by that, but then the one okay thing that got a smile out of me of the fact that like Darren Brown had been, staging the whole sub bit was the image of Patti LaBelle submerged underwater singing with like a thing over her head. Where it's like, well, that still wouldn't like work. There's still incredible stupidity to that visual gag. But yeah, and then shout out to, again, kind of to your point of like Darren Brown be willing to take the piss out of himself in the whole like mentalist thing, him really getting caught up in the spirit of Christmas and the idea that this bow that has been given to him has this deep, quintessential meaning, when really it was Homer gave Maggie's gift to him by mistake, and then we get the payoff of Maggie playing with Maggie sleeping with the Applebee's gift card. Some like it was very much like this was a fun little thing, not like the peak Simpsons stuff that certainly we remember from our youth and whatnot, but still a fun time to jump in, dip in, and see. I really liked that they kind of took it to a place where like we're gonna break Ned and we're gonna build him back up, because it does make him more real as opposed to the Hidely Hodely, neighborino that we've seen for so long, and just the like even that moment where he's walking past the church and like Reverend Lovejoy, calls out, "Hi, Ned," and is, just has a bit of a frown when Ned doesn't respond and just keeps walking, kind of thing. It was like they are a community together, and Ned has been shaken because of this whole thing. It was a fun little thing. Yeah, not Criterion Collection, not Pinnacle.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Best of the best stuff. But
like I said at the top, like it knows its mission, it achieves its mission, and it that's it. Like it's not overstaying its welcome. It's not taking up more of your time, and it's not taking too little of your time. It's this two-parter. It's just right. Hits it, nails it. We're good.
Yeah. Also, shout out to the visual gag of Homer getting tased and then maced.
Yes.
Always a fun of that.
The milk that he has, by the way, also. Oh, and like hot cocoa. We gave you hot cocoa. Marshmallows. Here's the mace. Like, there you
go. Always a fan of the Charlie Brown dancing cutaway.
Yeah.
And Bart just being like, yeah, my heart just wasn't in it, and you see him dancing just like everybody else dancing,
and then he stops and is like uncertain, and then keeps dancing anyway.
Yeah.
For me, the visual gag that I enjoyed most was Ralph hopping into Homer's car, starting it, and peeling away with it. Because it's like, oh, dang, like Ralph's got moves. He hopped into that car, like boy's got a soft skull.
Yeah. But also has the keys to. We see his soft skull when it goes through the bars. And then but also gets his dad's keys.
Also, was like a little bit of like a nightmare fuel. Was like him putting his head in there, like forming around the bars. I was like, first off, great animation right there. Really looked real. Also, the sound effect on it was gross, like really gross.
Yeah. Shout out to appearance from Gil Gunderson from way back when.
Oh my gosh!
With the whole like Gil Gunderson saves a baby little bit. Again, the whole like staging of the Darren Brown Christmas stuff. I was just like, I don't really like this, but if you're going to use it as an excuse to throw down on his luck, always be closing, knock off Gil Gunderson.
Yeah.
In a Christmas mascot suit, who now gets the gumption to rekindle with his wife, his ex-wife and the kids, and like, yeah, I'll go pick up a tree. I know, just okay. Yeah, no, it won't be the one I'm wearing. I got it.
No,
I'll
it's not
go
the one
get
I'm
a new
wearing. I'm like, it'll be the right one. I'm on my way to the tree lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic.
So yeah, those are some thoughts here on "Oh Come On, All Ye Faithful." What do you want to give this on the report card? Grade from A+ to F.
I think it's a B. Like, it's a solid B.
I think I'll live with you there. B. Yeah, nothing like super great, but a good time. Certainly not a waste of 45 minutes of the evening.
Like I said, it's a perfect amount of time for you to be like, that was something more and special, but not too long.
Yep. Extra credit, other suggestions if you like this. I think this was certainly interesting because this is the first time I've done one of these where it was like, oh, this is very clearly like the Hulu infused side of this, because the offerings are, instead of in the past, it's always been like, here's, the Simpsons show, the Simpsons movie, and then 6 Simpsons shorts. This was The Simpsons on Disney Plus, The Simpsons on Hulu, which is going to be this season of The Simpsons, The Simpsons movie, The Simpsons Meet the Bocellis in Feliz Navidad, The Simpsons, The Most Wonderful Time of the Year, which was a short that, like a 3-minute short that got released a month or two back. And then we get into the Family Guy 25th Anniversary Holiday Special, Bob's Burgers, and the Bob's Burgers movie as some of the other recommendations there. Again, the Hulu side of the equation kind of coming in and showing its flavors. Extracurriculars, watching anything else on Disney Plus?
Skeleton Crew.
Skeleton Crew, what are your thoughts on the last couple episodes?
I'm really loving them.
Yeah.
They're really great.
Also enjoying them. Enjoyed. I had like a little bit of a whiplash on this last episode where it was like they land on the planet. They're like, we're home, and I was like, wait,
Yeah.
they're home already? What?
That's what my
so I appreciate that. Like, it was not all that it appeared or whatever, and still kind of played with the bigger mystery of things. I'm trying to think what else I jumped in and watched. I've been watching a couple things, kind of catching up on some movies from earlier in the year. I don't think either of them were Disney Plus things, though. I watched the Mean Girls musical movie from earlier in the year, and If, the Imaginary Friend movie from earlier in the year. But I think both of those were like Amazon Prime videos. So yeah, Skeleton Crew, probably the only other Disney Plus thing I watched this week. But there may be some other miscellaneous thing there in the background. But yeah. So next week's episode, as a reminder, will be the Joy to the World Doctor Who special that comes out on Christmas Day. Basically, we'll be watching it Christmas Day, and then Cameron will swing by the following day on Thursday to record the episode on that, and that'll go out Friday. So yeah, stay tuned for that, and that will be our last show of the year here. And then yeah, come in the new year, we're gonna have stuff like we've got the What If Season 3 that starts dropping this week. We will have what else was? Oh, we'll have Skeleton Crew once that wraps up. We'll have kind of our full season recap of that, and then maybe we'll jump back and do like the Jim Henson Idea Man documentary that I think we had looked at some point in the past, but scrapped it for other things or sick days or something like that. So anyway, that's going to do it for this week's episode of That D Plus Show. Thank you, Cam, for joining me to talk all about The Simpsons. Oh, come on, all ye faithful. One of the rare episodes where we actually are under the time of the... I guess not a rare episode, because a lot of the movies we do probably were under, but rare TV episodes where we didn't talk as long as the actual thing itself. But yeah, you follow Cameron at revcabot.bsky.social. Anything you'll give a shout out to there, Cam?
Yeah, sure. As we come up to the end of the year, get ready for our January special, which is, of course, going to be our year-end lists. As we kind of look back, I had that thought because I was looking over my Game of the Year stuff that I'm getting ready to prep.
Yeah, over on That Nerdy Site Show.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So check it out there.
Cool. Yeah, you can follow me at trevorjstarkey.bsky.social, and I'm trying to remember, what did we talk about on this last week's That Nerdy Site Show? We talked about We talked about Marvel Rivals, right? We talked about Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. We talked about Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Rita's Rewind. So, yeah, go check out this last week's That Nerdy Site show if you want thoughts on any of those games on that side of things. Then, yeah, as I touched on, or as Cameron touched on there, we'll be doing our Game of the Year episodes, our Movie of the Year episodes, our other things that we loved in 2024 episode here early on in January. Logan has said he wants to come join us to talk about his
Movies.
he watched. He's going to join us for the 100 or the best movies episode of 2024. But he also wants to do the he did a whole thing this year where he was like, I'm going to watch 100 movies this year, and he is up to 118, I think he said.
Yep.
So he'll be on to talk through that and talk through some of the things. That was a mix of like movies of the past, movies of this year. So I'm sure he will have lots of thoughts on the movies that he watched this year. So yeah, stay tuned for all that. You can follow all of us over at That Nerdy Site or go to thatnerdysite.com for all the latest. If you liked what you heard, please like, rate, review, subscribe, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. Thank you again for joining us. As always, stay nerdy and be good to each other. Class dismissed.